Every cage has its cracks. In the city, we pretended not to see them because noticing was dangerous and speaking was even worse. But if you listened closely, if you kept your ear to the ground, you could hear whispers leaking through the cracks. Whispers of people who had slipped out, people who had gone back, people the system called outlaws. I first heard about them in the laundry facility. My wife came home one night, steam burns fresh on her hands. She leaned close at the table, speaking low so the cameras wouldn't catch her. There was a woman, she said. She told me about her cousin. Says he's living out past Sprague in an old farmhouse. I looked up, my fork frozen. They said that was impossible, I whispered. My wife shrugged. Impossible doesn't mean it isn't happening. The kids sat silent, pretending not to listen, but their eyes were wide open. That night, I lay awake, the hum of the ventilation like a heartbeat in the walls. And for the first time since leaving the farm, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. A week later, I went to the market alone. The stalls were the same. Trinkets, jars, scraps of fabric. But my eyes weren't on the goods. I was listening. Near the back, a man sold knives. Old ones, sharpened to glint. He looked at me hard, then softer like he recognized me. You're farm folk, aren't you? He said. I stiffened. Not anymore. Once is enough, he giggled. He leaned close. You ever think about going back? At this point, my mouth went dry, and before I could even answer, he pressed something into my hand. It was a folded scrap of paper, which was rare in of itself. Read it later, he said. Definitely don't read it here. So I took his advice and I tucked it deep into my pocket and walked away as quickly as I could. My heart was pounding. I waited until the kids were asleep and until the apartment was quiet. Then I unfolded the paper. It was a map. It was rough and hand-drawn, but familiar. The back roads of eastern Washington. At the bottom, in jagged script, it read, "We remember the land. Join us." There were no names or no instructions, just a mark with a small circle near the highway out past the city's edge. I stared at the piece of paper until my eyes watered and blurred. Then my wife came to stand behind me. She put her hand on my shoulder. "You can't be serious," she whispered. But the thing is, I already was serious. The next Saturday, I told the kids we were going to the distribution center. We left early, carrying an empty sack as cover. But instead of turning towards the warehouses, I steered the truck toward the old highway. My wife just sat in the passenger seat. Her whole body was rigid, eyes darting to the cameras at each intersection. But once we passed the checkpoint at the city's edge, her shoulders began to loosen. The road stretched empty ahead of us. The fields were flat and silent on both sides. For the first time in months, I breathed deep. We found them where the map said, an abandoned rest stop overgrown with weeds. A single pickup parked crooked. Out of the brush, a man stepped forward. His beard was thick, his clothes patched, his skin leathered by the sun. He carried a pack slung with solar panels and tools. "You made it," he said. his voice rough but not unkind. He studied us with sharp eyes. You city folk or farm folk? Farm, I said. His shoulders eased. Then you're welcome. That night we sat around a fire, something that I haven't seen since before the city. There were others, 3 families total, maybe a dozen or so people all in all. Some had children, some didn't. They all had the same look, worn and hungry, but alive in a way city folk just weren't. They told stories. One man had escaped after refusing to pay taxes. Another had walked out of a work camp in the middle of the night. A woman had left after her daughter died in a clinic waiting line. Out here, she said, staring into the flames, at least it's ours again. It's hard and dangerous, but it's ours. Her words lodged deep into my chest. But not all of it was hopeful. They told of drones sweeping the fields at night, scanning for heat signatures, of corporate patrols burning squatter camps, and of neighbors turning each other in for rewards. Most folks just don't last out here, the bearded man said. It takes grit, and it takes quiet, and it takes knowing when to disappear. Then I asked him, why risk it then? He looked at me long and said, because living in that city ain't living. And deep down, I knew he was right. We couldn't stay that night. Not yet. The kids were waiting, and the city would notice if we vanished too long. So we drove back. I kept my headlights off, slipping through the back roads until the towers rose against the horizon again. But the city felt different now. It felt much smaller, like the walls weren't as strong as they seemed. That night, my wife whispered into my ear, could we? I didn't answer, but in my heart, the answer was already burning. From then on, the farm wasn't just a memory. It was a possibility again. Each time I stood in line at the distribution center, each time I scanned my wrist for credits, each time I saw my kids' faces lit up by screens instead of sunlight, I thought of the firelight, of the stories, and of the taste of the air outside the city walls. The system might have called them outlaws, but to me, they were free. The city wasn't the end. It was a holding pen, a waiting room, and some of us weren't content to wait. Beyond the walls, the land still stretched wide and empty. The machines did rule it, yes, but the machines didn't care about freedom. The machines didn't understand belonging. And in the cracks, and in the shadows, the people were slipping back. Outlaws were what they called them, but I began to wonder, what if they were the last true farmers left?